am going to have a phone call tonight with a friend to tell her I don't want her boyfriend at my micro-wedding. We were going to elope but have some aging family that would be meaningful to have there and ended up making a very small list of our nearest and dearest. For context, last spring I moved across the ocean to be with my fiancé. We are having a very small elopement-style wedding. My friend was asking about it and sounded like she really wanted to attend. I explained there are no plus ones, but if she could come that would be lovely. Apparently her boyfriend, who I've only met twice, has a thing about being left out and she told me that. I asked her to just explain to him that even my little sister's fiancé isn't coming, to get him to understand. At some point I'd said something about money and why we were keeping it small and she clung to that. A few days after she and I talked I got this text. We both want to be there for you and your fiancé in, place it's happening, for you wedding. We've already budgeted for it for the year. We'll make the timeline work with our stuff. He says don't worry about our costs for after-party expenses. You're important to me and it's important we're there for this big life event. We love you both. I'm already looking at tickets and train and lodging. Send me more details as you get them. We're going to be there. I was panicking and said, don't book anything yet, we haven't booked anything yet. But I will keep you updated. Stalling, did you talk to him about what I told you? Even my little sister's fiancé wasn't invited? It's people we only know really well. Not that I don't want to get to know him, but it's an elopement with just a few of our closest people. Honestly, my heart is racing right now. Maybe what I should have said is no, you misunderstood, he is not welcome for the after events or the weekend, it's only to be people I am close to and my fiancé is close to. But that's not what I said. She responded, we won't book yet, I was looking stuff up for price estimates. Yes, he said he'd sit out for the ceremony or reception if that's the concern, it's more about traveling and being together. He's been to weddings where his partners weren't invited, he gets it. We're paying for ourselves. Standing room only, no problem. We need to eat before and just sit around, that's okay too. We want to be there to celebrate you and, fiancé, and your love. I didn't respond for over a week, then texted, can we schedule a phone call to talk about my wedding? I think I need to clarify some things. It's the ceremony, the photos after, we're all going to multiple places, and the meal after, and anything we do while we are in the location as a group for the days before and after my wedding. It's a special time to me, and I only want people I'm close to for this event in my life. Comment 1. NTA. Your friend is refusing to take the hint. I'd be interested to know what she's told him. If he's only met you twice, I doubt he loves you both or wants to be there to celebrate you and your love. He obviously hasn't been invited, so why does he think he is? Only a complete bore would show up at something they weren't invited to. I don't see what you can do except tell her bluntly that her boyfriend is not invited. Of course, you can't stop him from traveling with her even if he doesn't attend any events. You'll probably end up having to uninvite her if you don't want him there. Comment 2. Her text sounded like she understands what you want regarding your wedding. She doesn't want to travel alone, which is understandable. But she knows her BF won't be attending the wedding and reception. I do feel like you are being a bit unreasonable to demand everyone travel, what sounds like a great distance to your elopement-style wedding on by themselves. All because you don't want to be around anyone you haven't invited to your actual ceremony/reception in the days surrounding your wedding. Maybe your friend isn't planning on hanging out with you too much outside of your wedding day. Maybe she and her BF plan on spending some time together alone doing their own thing. Comment 3. YTA. It's one thing to ban these people you don't know super well, from your wedding. But you cannot ban them from taking a trip with their partner. And you can't reasonably expect people to travel to a destination wedding alone. Many people aren't comfortable doing that. You have the right to dictate who is at your wedding, but unless you own the country it's being held in, you do not have the right to dictate whether your friend travels alone or not. Let this go. I, F35, and fiancé, M30, are considering cancelling our wedding and eloping instead because of mother-in-law. Mother-in-law has never tried to have a positive relationship with me. She makes sure I'm not included in conversations, belittles my achievements and talks down to me. Things escalated when I was planning fiancé's 30th. Mother-in-law fought me on every detail and accused me of not knowing my fiancé at all. I planned a golf weekend away for him and his mother-in-law. Why? He loves golf. Fiancé confronted mother-in-law and asked why she doesn't like me. Mother-in-law admitted she doesn't like me. Doesn't like my partner driving me to his mother-in-law events, didn't like it took me a month to find employment when I moved to a different town to be with fiancé. Fiancé receives calls and texts from mother-in-law daily. If he doesn't respond, she blames me. Fiancé told her if she doesn't stop this behavior toward me he will no longer speak with her. I agreed to meet with mother-in-law to smooth things over and try to move forward. Mother-in-law never took me up on it. But things seemed okay for a time. Fast forward to fiancé's brother's wedding. Wedding day arrives and we were to be at the venue at 4 p.m. 5 minutes to 2 p.m. Fiancé receives call from mother-in-law saying the family photo shoot is in 5 minutes. We hadn't been told of a family photo shoot. Mother-in-law demands we arrive at 2 p.m. for it. We frantically get ready and arrive at the house where the wedding was. There was never a photo shoot planned. Mother-in-law comes out in her PJs and tries to hand me suit shirts to iron. I refused. Mother-in-law snaps at me asking where my son is. He was never coming. He's at the hotel. Mother-in-law continues stating everyone thought he would be there. I respond he was never coming and we RSVP just us. She has been told multiple times he wasn't coming. The ceremony is over and I started to have guests come up to me asking where my son is. I don't even know these people's names. I tell them he's at the hotel. Looks of disgust are thrown at me. My new friends stopped talking to me. I realized these people were being told my son was at the hotel but not telling them how old he is. Teenager. The wedding was a place of ridicule and disgust on me. Christmas Day at mother-in-law house. Her family scurry away from me on arrival, refusing to hug or greet me. One man, whom I had met once 2 years ago, aggressively accused me of leaving my son alone on Christmas Day. Son was at father's place this year. The rumor has continued and now not only does the mother-in-law hate me, so do her family. I made up an excuse to announce the fact my son was a teenager whom just finished his first year of high school at the top of his class. Everyone's jaw dropped. None of them knew he is a teen. Mother-in-law hurried out of the room. Now fiancé wants to cancel wedding and elope because of mother-in-law. Fiancé is demanding I speak with mother-in-law one last time in order for him to cut her off. Comment 1. NTA, and nothing will be achieved by you speaking to Mel one last time. He needs to do that, with you present if he prefers, but he needs to do the talking, because the entire point here is that he is your partner and if has to choose between her and his partner, he chooses his partner. I mostly think that if your fiancé is happy to elope instead, do it. But I do get stuck on him wanting you to have that last conversation, he needs to rethink that. Comment 2. NTA. If you don't want to sit with her and confront her, that's okay, particularly if you have tried reaching out before. Any sitting down should anyway include your so. I think he may just need closure and he may think that it might help you too, maybe have a chat with him about what he is hoping to get out of it. If you decide to cancel that specific wedding date, which I personally believe would be best as well as going North Carolina Will Mill, you might want to send an email to all the family explaining why it is cancelled, in detail, as many of them will only know what Mill has been saying, probably for a very long time, which may include stories about abuse. At least you can give them a chance to have a relationship with your so, but make it clear that it is conditional. You can elope or do something small with just your family and friends. Comment 3. NTA elopement sounds like a good idea if BF cuts mom off because married or not, if she is still in your lives you will never have peace. If you choose to meet his mom, make sure you record it so she can't twist anything. I, 36M, have a son, 15M, and a daughter, 17F, and they've been friends with our neighbor who I'll call Ron. 17M, since childhood. Recently, my daughter and the Ron were hanging out with a friend, and they walked into our house as they left their friend's place. This is where the problem occurred. My son, who was at home with me, let out a big sigh after seeing Ron and asked why he was here. I was confused by what he meant. That's when my son vented about being tired of the Ron's constant presence and made hurtful comments about his sexuality. Ron is gay. It was shocking because my son had never expressed any issues with the neighbor before and had always been close to him. Ron was visibly hurt and offered to leave, but I insisted he stay, but he said it was okay and left anyway. My daughter and I were rightfully upset, and I admit we were yelling. I asked what his problem was. He yelled back saying he couldn't help not wanting to be around the Ron all the time. I tried being calm, asking my son why would he say something like that to Ron. At this point, my daughter had already left and went with Ron. My son refused to answer me and just kept saying he was sorry. I told him I'm not the one to be saying sorry to. I told him I raised him better than this, and this made him cry. In the heat of the moment, I made the decision to ground my son. I took away his phone, PS5, and all his electronics, leaving him with only the TV in his room without the remote. He started crying even more and begged me not to go through with it, but I stood firm, telling him he needed to apologize to Ron the next morning. Now, I'm conflicted. My daughter supports my decision, but when I spoke to Ron, he suggested I let it go, assuring me he would be okay. I think he might be right. I tried talking to my son again, but he is straight up refusing to talk to me and keeps saying please leave him alone in a quiet tone. I don't think I'm in the wrong for grounding my son, but I'm wondering if I went too far, considering it's his first time saying something like this. Comment 1. NTA for calling your son out, and I can't really speak on the grounding. I'm not a parent. I will say that I think a talk with your son about what those comments mean would be good. Even at 15, he may not really understand just how stigmatizing that is. And it could be bred from stuff he hears at school and online. I also wouldn't expect Ron to step in. It feels pretty embarrassing to have received those comments. I'd reassure Ron that he's always welcomed, and that you're talking about this topic with your son about it. Comment 2. Adding on, Ron is probably asking you to drop it because he doesn't want to be involved or be made the center of attention over this. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk to your son or mete out some punishment, just that you shouldn't force Ron to be a part of it. Also sounds like both you and your son might need a little time to cool off before a productive conversation can be had between y'all. I also can't say whether you overreacted, but maybe that's also something you can discuss with your son when everybody has had, 24 hours of distance. Comment 3. I don't know guys, but feel there is more in story between Son and Ron. Maybe something happened between them and Son is not comfortable to talk about, so with stupid comments he is trying to raise the wall between them. I could be wrong, but Son's reaction after makes me believe there is more to this story. OP should definitely get to bottom of this, if necessary send Son to therapist where he will be able to speak about it without judgment. I 31F got married last year and wore my mom's wedding veil to include her on my special day. She passed away a few years ago, and when we went through her stuff we found her wedding dress, wedding veil amongst some other possessions. She was my stepmom, but my dad married her when I was 3 and growing up she had always been my mom. My dad and her had my half-sister Annie 17F. We have a pretty big age gap, so me and Annie aren't super close, but when we discovered our mom's wedding stuff, Annie said she wanted the dress and I said I'd take the veil then. My friend Lily, who came to my wedding, was getting married soon and asked me if she could borrow my veil, as they are getting married on a tight budget and she really likes mine, but it's not in her price range. As the veil is mine and not Annie's, I didn't ask her and lent it to Lily. After the wedding, Lily posted pictures of her and the bridesmaids, including me, and I reposted it on my social media. Annie called me and blew up at me on the phone as she recognized the veil and said that it was her mom's stuff, not my mum's, and I shouldn't have lent it out without asking her. I hung up on her. In hindsight, I could have handled the phone call a bit better and I should have at least informed Annie, but when she pointed out that my mom was my stepmom and her actual mum, I got upset. Comment 1. Mild YTA for me. Not because you had Lily borrow it, that is your decision, but it wouldn't have hurt you to have informed Annie about the loan. It is her mother and she probably would have liked the heads up about someone else wearing it. Sometimes it is not about being right or wrong, but also about being gracious to someone close who doesn't necessarily has a say but might have some emotions about it too. Comment 2. Very mild YTA for me. The whole veil thing sounds like a miscommunication. That being said, you could have contacted her about the veil, and you should have handled the phone call with a 17 years better as a 31 years. Memories of loved ones are always a matter of emotion. While you technically own the veil, it could have been painful for you sister to see the veil on someone else, someone she doesn't know. Comment 3. NTA, you got the veil, she got the dress. You can do what you want with your property as she can too. She's more than welcome to feel however she wants to about the situation, but it's not your job to consult with her what you do with something that belongs to you. You said it yourself, you both aren't close, so why would you even think to ask her about it? If you let her know beforehand and she said no, then what? She has no authority over the situation. She's just in her emotions and that's fine, but it doesn't have to be your problem that she isn't okay with something you are doing.